that's fine. Yeah.
Oh, good thought.
Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the Glens Falls Board of Public Safety meeting for May 13th, 2026. Looks like we have a quorum, and I'd like to welcome our newest commissioner, Larry Clancy. So the first item is public comment. Is there anyone here from the public that wishes to address the board? Not yet, no. Okay. So next we'll go to our, well, no, that's a specific item. We'll get to it in a minute. So next we'll go to our consent agenda. Is there anything from the consent agenda that you wish to pull for further discussion?
No, nothing here.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Neil second. Got that. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, our consent agenda is approved. So now we'll go to our discussion items. The first item is about the public bathroom use and hours. I'll give you a little bit of background, and then I think we have a couple of people who would like to speak to this. So downstairs, the police have a lobby, where you go in if you want to make a report. And there's a bathroom there. And the big question is, do we want to lock that bathroom when City Hall closes? Or do we want to leave that bathroom open all night because the police department's open? And we have some differences of opinion about that. Mary is here. Mary ends up having to clean and deal with the bathrooms, and she has some really strong opinions about that. And then we have Darlene, our social worker, who's here, and she has kind of differing opinions. So I've invited them both to address you so that we could talk about this, because it does end up being a public safety issue. So would you like to come on, Mary? Okay.
First off, I have pictures on it, so everybody.
Thank you, Mary.
In color, no less.
I boy, everybody asking for color.
At least you didn't give me second, but.
Just pass them all.
Yeah. Okay, I've seen that. So
This is overnight.
Overnight and sometimes in the during the day and stuff. No,
It's all good. That's good. Okay.
So Mary, would you like to tell them what your concerns are, what your request is?
I just think when the building's closed, I think the bathroom should be locked. The people that come up here from New York City, so they're something that's on the buses should not be doing what they do. They don't care. Before I started taking pictures, they were doing it in the sink. The last administration making me for them.
Making it clean.
Yes, and I recently released it. And I didn't want to get fired, so I ended up doing the best I could. And I've been talking to this mayor, and I thank her very much for helping me. It's just, it's a health issue for me, because I've never ever been trained how to even do this stuff. My hazmat suit was a paper gown, and that's it. And they bought me little plastic booties. That's what I was supposed to use. But Tom Gerard took and brought me up to Home Depot and bought me a good one. And the only feeling I have is this: when the buses come up, that bus stop is packed. They're shooting up over there and everything else every day. And it's on. And they come in and they just don't clean. And I just feel safer for me if the bathrooms are locked at night. I don't think anybody's thinking of me. They're just thinking of these people. And I just don't think it's right. If the building's not open, they should not be here. The police department has a key. If somebody's there for police business, the police can open the bathroom for them, lock it.
Okay. Just anything else you wanted to say,
Nothing.
Mary? Okay. So I'd like to invite Darlene also to come and talk with us.
Thank you, Mary. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you very much, Mary. I don't have one.
Okay.
So,
I'm the social worker for the police department, and so my concerns of the bathroom being locked are that I went through 11 random days. We have the cameras downstairs. I went through and checked. I just picked 11 random days in the past month. And what I found was that there were there were not a lot of people who weren't here for police business who are using the restrooms. Um, Mostly I found like 22 uses by CDTA drivers, 8 people who like came in, appeared to look for the bathroom when it was locked, and then walked out. Um, and of those people, there were elderly people, there was people with children who, presumably looking for a bathroom for the child possibly. Um, During weekdays, when it was unlocked, there was only 5 people who weren't here for other uses. I don't know if they were in the building for something, because even like during the weekdays, if you come, to see the art gallery, come to do something on the first floor, that is the public bathroom, so they could have been in the building for other uses. Um, and during that time, the 11 random days that I checked, only 3 people had asked officers to unlock the bathroom. So most of the people who are already using it are already in the building for other purposes. Like they're here to see the police officers if it's nights, weekends, and they're asking for it to be unlocked. They like appeared to have business with the police because they were talking to them, or they went into the actual station with the officer after or before. Um, my concern is like people who have a like medical need or something like that, who have an emergency. There's not a lot of public restrooms around. People who are using the city park, there's no public restroom in the park. So it becomes a matter of like, it's a basic human need to use the restroom. And for the amount of time that it's used, not a lot of people, it's awful when they do make a mess. And I completely get Mary's concerns about cleaning it. But comparatively, like the use compared to the mess, there's not, it's not, it's not being a mess every time.
Mhm. So the real question is, do we want to have basically a public restroom 24 hours a day in the police department lobby? Because you're saying for the community who may need it, right? And, or do we want to say that that's really just for people who are here doing business with the police department, in which case the police can unlock the door for them? That's what Mary has requested from us. Taylor, do you wanna read the attorney's input? Yeah.
I should have had this queued up, sorry. According to Taylor Bassford, I'm Steve Thurston for the record. According to Taylor Bassford, our city attorney, there is no general legal requirement for public buildings to keep restrooms unlocked and accessible to members of the public at all times. Public facilities are required by building and plumbing codes to provide restroom facilities when they are open to the public and for individuals doing business in those buildings. The purpose of these rules is to ensure that employees and visitors conducting business in public buildings have reasonable access to sanitary facilities. They do not guarantee unrestricted public entry into restrooms. Restroom access is tied to lawful use of the building rather than an unconditional public right to access the restrooms. It is generally legal for public buildings to lock or restrict restroom access as long as they still meet code requirements for individuals who are legitimately using the facility. And then she says, for example, restroom access can be restricted to business hours or to staffed areas. That said, in truly public buildings, it is difficult and legally risky to determine which members of the public are in a public building for a legitimate purpose of doing business there and which members of the public are not. In City Hall, legitimate business could mean anything from filing a police report to paying taxes to viewing galleries or to simply visiting. So it is
except that City Hall is closed at 4:30 in every capacity except for the police department or special events that occur here, like, you know, an art, yeah, art opening, common council meeting, etc. And the other input from the police department was that when we do lock it, we end up having to have more arrests from people who are unfortunately publicly using the bathroom and other spaces. So, this is what we're discussing today, whether we think it's a safety risk if we lock it and then we have more people. I don't know if you want to speak to that at all, Assistant Chief Fidone, you mentioned it to me. Sorry to put you on the spot, but yeah, yeah, yeah.
We did have a couple incidents in the past, feelings where the restroom has been locked. We've had people urinate in the lobby of the station, just urinating in the corners there. We've had people urinating in the back corner where Mary's hallway is. We've subsequently set up cameras back there to catch people. We have been arresting people for urinating. We had a female remove a tampon and smear blood all over the walls of the police station. Subsequently, these messes still had to be cleaned up by Mary. But these are items that have happened while those bathrooms were locked.
Yeah. So are we creating more risk from locking it or from unlocking it? And that's what we're asking you to consider.
My comment is the problem's not gonna go away.
Right.
Bodily needs is still there.
Mhm,
I stopped at Cumberland Farms on the way here. And if you want to use the restroom, you had to get a key.
mhm,
And this is during daylight hours.
mhm,
So obviously there's an issue.
mhm.
I don't know how many public bathrooms are within 1,000 feet of this place. I don't think there's any. I don't think blocking it after hours is gonna solve the problem totally.
Mhm.
Restricting it, yes.
It was mentioned that a number of transit drivers were observed on that. That's a historic
Mhm.
reliance that goes
I was
back.
gonna mention that.
That goes back to the prior operation.
That would be my
The drivers are
Because we
counting
deal with the
on that.
drivers all the time, and I don't know what their stop looks like any other time to use the bathroom.
Right.
And obviously buses go after 4:30.
Mhm.
That would be the only thing.
Mhm.
I would say that for the amount of time, the years that I've lived here
Mhm.
and been involved in this community,
Mhm.
once City Hall is closed, City Hall is closed.
Mhm.
The bathrooms are closed.
Mhm.
The prior bus drivers,
Mhm.
everybody took care of themselves.
Mhm.
I, I, I would side with Mary that they should be closed.
Should be able-
Even during, kind of council meetings,
Mhm.
um, the second floor bathrooms were available just for that time,
Mhm.
no other times, and the doors were locked. And I can recall, an incident before these officers were here of a woman, and it's a legend, and I'm sure they've heard it. And she urinated on the floor downstairs, waiting. She had been arrested, and no, I do not feel that City Hall at all in any way, shape, or form should become a public restroom for this community when they are closed.
Mhm. Okay,
Is there a sign out front that says public restrooms?
no. And as Mary's saying, the police can unlock the bathroom, but the problem is if someone comes in to file a report and you're not sitting there, they have to wait until someone comes, right? So that's, I think Darlene's concern is that what happens to them if they're here doing legitimate business and they have to wait. So,
And are we creating an additional responsibility for the police department
yeah,
to monitor that situation and respond to people that want to use it?
yes, because I think what I was told is in the past, they were having to pull people from patrol to come back to lock the bathroom, which is unlock the bathroom, which is not a good use of our police officers.
Mm.
Yeah. But, Yeah, so I mean, there's valid arguments on two sides, and it sounds like this has been a multi-year, back and forth problem. Mary, is that correct?
Friday nights.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so it hasn't been resolved. I wanted to give you a chance to see if you had input on it from a safety perspective.
I'd like to know how many public bathrooms are available within 1,000 feet or 2,000 feet. We're just locking the door, but it's not, the problem's not gonna go away. Just gotta go to the park.
Then yeah, we're gonna go to the Queensberry and to the library, and then we're gonna get those complaints like mad.
Well, the library's not open 24 hours a day.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there, I'm wondering if there's an external solution, as unsightly as that might be.
Yeah.
One of those portable facilities that we've seen popping up at sporting venues and things like that.
They have,
Maybe
some-
there's,
they have some more attractive ones each day.
maybe those could be externally managed and not be within the facility.
But that would be an extra cost that the
Right.
city would incur, yeah.
Maybe CDTA should put one in.
CDTA, if it's for their drivers,
For their drivers, yes.
yeah. That's not a bad idea to discuss it with them.
You know, and I understand, you take a bus trip from Albany to here, well, you know, you might have to use the restroom, not just the driver.
The, yeah.
So the question is, we don't wanna burden the police with this, obviously it's what we're discussing. But do we want to talk to CDTA about maybe making some sort of reasonably appropriate accommodation for people who get off the bus early?
I'd like to suggest we table this for 30 days so we can talk to the bus company, the CDTA,
Okay.
and see if they can provide facility where we drop people off.
I think that's a reasonable suggestion to float that with them and see what we can do. Does anyone else have any other input?
Other than that, it is not a public restroom.
Yeah.
The bottom line is,
Uh-uh,
it's not open for the public.
right. So in the meantime, is it locked or open?
I would say locked. I would say locked.
I don't think you can lock it without telling the bus drivers in advance.
Yeah,
Right.
I of the opinion that
They
you're
know.
deflecting the problem.
Bus drivers should always come in and they know, and they'll stop at the clerk's office and get a key, and that's how it's always been.
But this is when the clerks are gone and the people who are driving in the evening when city hall's closed. Yeah,
During daytime hours.
it's open in the day. We leave it open in the day.
Right.
Yeah.
But when, I feel that when city hall closes at 4:30, everything should be done, everything. Maybe I guess, when has it become city hall's issue to provide a bathroom for John Q. Public? May I ask that?
From what I was told, this was kind of the direction
Right.
from previous leadership to do that. So there's been a kind of a back and forth with input. And from what I'm understanding, this issue is kind of dragged on and on with a back and forth for many years. So I would like to make a decision and move on.
I guess.
But I thought more input might be helpful. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I was not, and I
Yeah.
don't know that we
Yeah.
at the board were ever made aware of, so
Yeah.
that,
I
that,
didn't know until.
yes, yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
I could actually come and talk to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I think what we'll do is, we'll table it, we'll reach out, to CDTA and, the current practice right now is that it's unlocked, is that correct? Or is it locked?
Can I get on?
I think it's being locked at 4:30.
Okay.
By the traffic gate when she leaves.
Uh-huh,
I believe it's being unlocked in the morning, either by doing traffic.
I unlock it in the morning when she locks it, she doesn't lock it every day.
okay.
And I also come in on Fridays and log in.
And have you been having problems while that's been happening? Recently?
I think the most recent time that there was, like a nest found was the end of April when it was locked that evening, but the nest was made during the day.
Yes.
Uh-huh, but I'm saying, have you had problems with people while it's been locked who couldn't access it and then you had consequences because of that, from the drivers or from the public?
We have an
Okay.
The bus drivers are all aware.
All right, so I think we'll leave it locked for the 30 days while we consider, and then we'll make a decision after that.
So
Does that-
if you're not open during regular hours,
Yeah.
locked at 4:30.
As they're saying they're doing now.
Correct, with this no change.
And then we will get more input and reconsider, okay? All right,
We're still lock it, is it, all right?
yeah, as I just said,
Yeah.
as the current practice has been temporarily, that's fine, okay?
Sarah, will you put on? You locked it? No, she locked it.
I mean, you can unlock it for people if you're there, okay? All right, I know that's an unusual item to consider, but because it involves the police's time and arrests, it seemed appropriate for you. Okay. The next item is a discussion of the draft of the outside dining policy. So, let's see. So Allison Daddy, who is our Director of Planning and Zoning, is here, and she worked on this. Allison, would you like to talk to us about this? Okay.
In the process of drafting this memo, kind of went through previous encroachment permits for outside dining and sort of standard, if they're looking, if there are standard practices and how we were approaching this. What I've found is that our law is fairly vague in this topic. There is no set distance numerically in our code. Something like that would be, setting a clear standard like that would be provide clarity and simplicity to the process for our applicants and for the city staff and common council and anyone else who is reviewing these applications. I think in a lot of the discussion I hear about this, we're using per WAG as our standard. We need to we should differentiate between ADA and per WAG. They are both meant to achieve the same thing, but kind of are different. There's distinctions in how they can be enforced. We're currently, I will. Okay. We're confirming this with, city, our city, attorney, but right now, the legal baseline established is the American Disabilities Act. But that best practice guidance is provided by that PROAG, which stands for Public Right of Way Accessibility Guidelines. So ADA standards minimums is a width of 3 feet clear passage, which is the minimum. We should shoot for larger than that. I think in reality, that is very tight for someone who's wheelchair bound. It does not allow for 2 spaces for people going both ways. 4 to 5 feet is generally required for wheelchairs to pass. But this represents only the absolute minimum necessary for basic accessibility. If we wanted to go by PROAG standards, that would be more of a 5 to 6 feet for a clear pass. So the structure where the city reviews these requests for outdoor dining, if they're new applications, they go to the planning board for review, and then it's referred to, and then common council for approval, and then there's annual permitting. So I reviewed some nearby communities for how they did it. There are maybe some streamlines in our review and permitting practices we could do, but I think what would be best for us is if we established a clear minimum clear path allowance based on our city sidewalks. I don't think that 6 feet fully is feasible everywhere. 5 feet is probably, or wait, do you say 4? 4 feet is probably more reasonable, but a lot of communities, because in the downtown areas sidewalks are narrower, but there are new spaces that have wider sidewalks. You could establish a 4 feet minimum path or 50% of the usable sidewalk space, so that means you're utilizing that area more efficiently. So another thing we've been discussing is how we measure that. Some places in our community have that red brick. That's not considered accessible or passable by ADA standards. So we need to make sure we're not measuring that in the clear path wherever feasible. Also, looking at a restaurant's proposed site plans, if they're proposing to have a chair on the outside, sort of facing the road, that should not, that needs to be incorporated into their clear path measurement, because then you're adding maybe another at least 1.5 feet onto where you're obstructing that passable area. So some things like these, incorporating these standards into our practices and into the application process, I think would be really helpful. Even a lot of communities put a diagram that's shown on the policy memo there, just to provide guidance of where you need to be measuring and like how to achieve the best site plan for approval.
So there have been some inconsistencies in the past with the amount of feet we've allowed, and I would really like to have a clear, consistent guideline. And it's a safety issue because people who are in maybe a wheelchair or something like that, if they can't get by, what are they going to have to do? They're going to be forced into the street, right? And we don't want that. So so Allison's recommendation is the 4 feet or half. Say it, how do you say it?
Or 50% of the usable sidewalk width.
50% of the usable sidewalk width.
Yeah.
We've had people who have applied at 3.5 feet, and that's because they say they can't, they're trying to fit larger amounts of tabletop on the sidewalk for their guests, and they can't fit them without us narrowing it. And so sometimes we've had the 4 or 5 feet, and other times there have been allowances made for less. And so I wanted you to consider if you think we should, if this is a reasonable standard to adopt, so that we have consistency.
I would say it's reasonable.
Uh-huh.
My preference would be for wider, but I understand the need to compromise maybe at
Mhm.
4.
Mhm.
I think it's a reasonable halfway point. There's many, well, there's a few that I encounter regularly. Encroachments into the city right away from restaurant tables and whatnot that really limit the effectiveness of the accessibility to the sidewalk. So I think a line needs to be drawn somewhere for clarity, and this seems like a good one.
Mhm. And we have had complaints from people with accessibility issues who have said, I can't get through in certain places, so. Anyone else?
Agree.
You agree? Okay,
I would concur.
okay,
Sounds good.
yep,
That's good.
okay. All right, that's great. So we will let the common council know that you had a favorable opinion of this. All right,
Thank you.
thank you for your work, Allison. All right, the next item is the public Wi-Fi and connectivity grant project, and we have Jim Siplon from Warren County Economic Development here. You may ask, why is this a public safety issue? Steve, would you like to fill them in on this a little bit?
I think Jim can do it.
Oh, do you know the public safety concerns related? I wasn't sure. It was Councilman Latham who requested that it come before you.
Yeah, and well, since I'm standing here,
Okay.
I'll just say, that part of it is would be a new cell network, not a Wi-Fi network in the city, so it's a slightly different way of connecting to the world. And especially during big events and, in the spots in the city where we have dead zones or close to dead zones in the city with, with cellular connections, this would potentially help fill those gaps. It would make a lot more bandwidth, and I'll let Jim explain this, but it would give us a lot more bandwidth during big events. They had some large gathering going on downtown, and places. I used to work at the Post Star, and right over there in that building, it was terrible cell phone coverage, and so it would hopefully give us some of that.
But
The
yeah,
concern was that
you-
would this represent a public safety issue because of greater access to the network, and would it be an attractor of people who would come that wouldn't otherwise come because of that, for instance, in the park? So let me just hand some of these out. I think I have 5, unfortunately, but so maybe one group can share. I'll go.
Or we share.
I only want to give you enough background to understand what it is that we're talking about, and then we can get to the public safety issues. This is, as Steve said, this is a grant that is coming from the state to expand cellular coverage. They offered the money in 2 ways. One was either to put cell coverage where it didn't exist, expanding the network, or adding capacity where sometimes capacity became a problem. when we looked at Warren County, there were two places where capacity continues to be a problem, downtown Glens Falls and downtown Lake George. Those are areas where the cell networks routinely get overwhelmed and calls do not complete. So we then went to those two communities and said, what would it look like if we were to create an overlay network, particularly in the downtown areas where that occurs? And that's what you see here. And there's actually in there, there's a kind of a map that has the red on it that would show both in Lake George and in Glens Falls where we're talking about putting this equipment. Essentially what this would be is on existing poles, some of which already have city equipment that are associated with a smart city concept. We would add a router that essentially is a more robust version of what you would have in your home. Okay, you wouldn't even really notice it on the pole, but it's designed to be outdoor and weatherproof. When your cell phone comes into contact with one of these nodes, it would be notified that there is a way for you to connect that cell phone to this network. What that would mean, if you did sign into that network, is that when you either were receiving a call or placing a call, that call would go out through the data network that we're creating into the first switch that would receive it. So it's very robust in its ability to complete a call. It's hard for a call not to complete. During things like LARAC, we're told by Phil, and in fact, he wrote a letter in support of this, that a significant amount of their sales, as much as 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 6 in the original swipe, does not go through because of this issue. So there's obviously a monetary and tax issue there, but there's also just a satisfaction and event issue there. Jeff Mead in the Civic Center at one time had a public Wi-Fi network that was available to you when you went into the facility or were on the outside of the facility. They could no longer support that. It was routinely overwhelmed. And in order for them to upgrade it, it would be between $80,000 and $100,000. And subsequently, they have not done that. So right now, if you attend an event there, you essentially go into a cell dead zone and you don't have a Wi-Fi network to connect with. So it's very haphazard about your service when you're in that building. Those are two examples of the problems that we're trying to solve. The reason we're coming to you is because there has been some discussion in the past about whether public Wi-Fi access represented a public safety issue or risk, particularly in the park. Now, I would like to clarify that this is not Wi-Fi, but it can easily be confused. This is only for cell phones. So if you had your computer, if it did not have a SIM, which allows it to complete calls, that would not prompt your computer to attempt to connect with this. However, I have 2 phones over there. If this was in uh, use right now, when I walked into this building or I crossed over the boundary where this network existed, I would be given the opportunity to sign into this network so that I could complete a call. Now, when you can complete a call, you're also getting the same kind of access to the internet that you would have gotten on your cell network. It's just going to be much more robust and reliable. There's a good case to be made from a business and experience standpoint in these 2 downtown areas for this. I think the sales tax alone would likely pay for this over time. The grant itself is a trial. So for 2 years, the state is giving us the money, although the city would have to advance the money and get reimbursed for the installation of this equipment. During that period of time, it's designed to be a trial. The state will come and they have a number of vendors that are associated with this grant that will be looking to see how is the network used? Is there any unintended consequences? Are there business models that can be built from it? Their interest is seeing whether or not they want to take this money and push it out into communities more broadly because they believe there's a business return in sales tax associated with this. We don't know if that's true or not, so we would be part of the trial base. At the end of the 2 years, we would have to decide, would the city like to take over this equipment, which is essentially a series of routers that are on poles. Their obligation would then be if that router needed to be serviced or failed and had to be replaced. Would a third party like to do it, or would we like to just disable it? But in the period of time of the 2 years, we still have this opportunity to evaluate whether or not this represents a risk to the community. And it was suggested that we bring it to you proactively, and particularly to you as the police chief, to ensure that everyone understood what was happening and was able to share any concerns that they may have from a public access and safety standpoint. Did that kind of explain what we're trying to do?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Bottom line, at the end of the 2 years, the city had to take it over. What's it gonna cost?
Well, I don't think very much. That router will have already been paid for. So at that point, it's simply a matter of if you had to replace it, my guess is that those units would be several $100s a piece. If you had to service it, you'd have to pay somebody to do it. I think the operating cost for this network would probably be measured in thousands, not more than 10,000, but we'd know based on the experience of operating the network for 2 years. And it's not clear that the city would have to do it. In fact, we brought it to the bid to see whether or not they would have an interest in being a part of this. And of course, they're big advocates for it. So they could continue to be engaged to see whether or not they would want to assume this responsibility if the city did not. The EDC could potentially do it, or we could turn it down. So I don't want anyone to believe that this decision obligates the city in any way to a long-term commitment. It would just be one of several options.
And I just want to clarify that your role isn't to decide if the city's going to enter into this. The common council will do that. I just want to know if you have safety concerns. That's it, because one of our council members, so Councilman Lapham had previously been working on the cameras we installed in our parks. And there was a discussion of putting Wi-Fi in the parks because the cameras can run on Wi-Fi. And there were concerns about that because of people being able to get onto the network and do nefarious things. So he said, as a council member, I'd like the Board of Public Safety's input on that. And that's all that we're asking for at this point. Does anyone have any safety concerns with this?
I have no safety concern.
Okay.
None.
No,
Good
Okay.
idea.
all right,
Well, thank you.
there you go.
Thank you. Also, thank you for all the time you're putting in on this. I'm a resident of Glens Falls. I appreciate the commitment that you're making.
Love the Hartford weather.
Well,
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you very much.
All right, now we're going to go to a discussion about adding a crosswalk to 74 Warren Street. Do we have, hi.
You should be able to find her email, by the way.
It's on page 90 of your packet.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
So my name is Suzanne Hoffman, and my husband and I own a few buildings on Warren Street. And I'm here today to request that you consider an additional crosswalk on and around 74 Warren, somewhere in the neighborhood of J Street to cross Warren Street. We have had, and my office is right there on top of the Social Security Administration building at 67 Warren Street, which is right at the corner of where we're asking for this crosswalk. So if you're not familiar with that area, we have the Social Security Administration and the people who come on a daily basis, and it's more and more because I spoke to someone in Social Security, they told me not to quote them, but basically this person said that with they're trying to attempt to mitigate a lot of the fraud that's been happening with Social Security. So they're requiring people who didn't used to have to come to the building physically to come. And they feel bad about that, but it's working. And they get people in there that are mainly either elderly or disabled, whether it's physically or mentally disabled. And it's a very, very high traffic area. You have the roundabout, and what happens is people pick up speed. By the time they get to that part of Warren Street, they've really picked up speed. I mean, it's you just really have to run when you cross the street, because even though a car looks like it's in the distance, it's right on you. And we have a dance studio at 74 Warren Street, and it's actually two dance studios. And by 4:30, these little ballerinas, 6, 7, 8 years old, their parents are parking on the street, looking and walking them across the street. And I see them with the hands, and they've got the younger children that they've got with them while they drop off the other daughter. And I see them crossing the street and I hold my breath sometimes because it's just not a very safe area. We have the Conklin Center at Warren Street Square, which is the other corner of J Street. And if you're not familiar with the Conklin Center, it's wonderful. They do a lot of things for seniors in the area, and you have a lot of senior citizens visiting that building. There's Mint Restaurant, and you have a lot of people crossing the street for that, Warren Street Square has 28 apartments in it, as well as some commercial offices. So, and then of course the church, you have a lot of funerals that are occurring during the day, and they all line the street for the funerals, and I just see people crossing. There is the reason when I requested consideration for this in the past, the other crosswalk that exists was cited over by the school, and that's on by School Street. And that crosswalk it is quite a ways away, to be honest with you, and people, I don't see anybody walking all the way over to School Street to cross and then come back down. It just isn't happening. And if I'm gonna be honest, it's really faded. You can't even tell it's a crosswalk anymore because you can kind of make out that there's lines, but people know it's there because there's a traffic light. But when you get another block down to where J Street is, there's just a lot of pedestrian traffic. This time of year, the Sagamore has buses coming and it just adds to it. There's all the uh, uh, Lake George, trying to think of the name of the convention center up there. But this time of year, where I said there was like 91 visitors to Social Security, you can double that this time of year. It's really kind of crazy. But just thought I'd come and ask if you would at least consider adding a crosswalk at that location.
So I did a little snooping around on it yesterday, in case anyone reported me to your office. I was hanging around your building for a while. I agree with everything you said.
Yeah.
The existing crosswalk facilities are too far away to practically serve your building or the Conklin Center. I observed people crossing in all different directions because there's really no channelized crossing there. So the one word of caution I would provide to the city is that there's no good existing place to put one in right now. You have no aligned facilities on the north side and the south side of the street that could be directly connected by a perpendicular crosswalk. So you may have an ADA accessible access on the north side of the street, but it doesn't align with anything on the south side of the street. There's no such thing as a crosswalk warrant that needs to be satisfied in order for the city to consider putting one in. There's no threshold for pedestrian counts or anything like that. If there appears to be some demand, it's probably a good idea. There's a considerable distance again between the existing crosswalks that probably support the establishment of a new facility somewhere in between those two, similar to what you're requesting. Where that thing should go is probably best left up to some engineering interpretation.
Right.
In that there's no clear cut solution. I mean, I looked at it and I thought, I think I know where I would put it, but I'm a planner, what do I know? So I would want some outside professional input on where exactly to put that if you in fact were to decide to do. Now, as for the warrant, sure, why not? It seems like, again, just for observable pedestrian activity and demand generators on either side of the road and the gap between the two crosswalks, it makes a lot of sense. But where exactly it goes, I would look for a little help on that.
I know nothing about crosswalks. Does it have to be at the corner or can it be Lynn Street?
It could be mid-block, but what you don't have in any condition that I saw were aligned curb ramps. So you need a landing spot.
I see.
You can't run the crosswalk into a curb. Right, right. You need an accessible curb ramp on both sides. They're preferable at intersections because they're more expected at intersections. A mid-block crossing isn't always the most intuitive thing for a driver to process. Oh, there's a ped crossing here. Why are they crossing here? It's the middle of the block. You can do it. Obviously, we have some in Glens Falls and other locations, but the preferred location would be at an intersection.
Yeah.
You have an intersection directly in front of your building. That makes a lot of sense. but there's no accessible break in the curb on your building side for that crosswalk to land.
Got it.
So that would need to be established in order for the crossing to have any legitimacy.
It has to be ADA approved, it has to have curb cuts.
We need a couple of curb cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and you would probably want some input on where to put those.
So who physically would go and do that work? Highway department, engineering department?
Well, we would need an engineer first to determine. We'd have to have a study. I'm sorry to say, traffic study.
So there's more to it, is what you're saying.
Yes.
There
More
is,
to
as
it.
good as an idea as it
Just
seems to be,
yeah.
how intuitive it seems to be, I think
Paintbrush out tomorrow for you.
Okay.
you joke,
Good.
we've had people talking about that.
Yeah, but I think there's more to it.
Yeah.
And we do agree.
Yeah.
With everything you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I do agree.
I think if you went there and you saw it, you would be like, oh, there's a lot going on here. It's
Yeah.
just by nature of it being a social security administration, you see a lot of people. I just wanna grab half of them and walk them across the street because you're like, oh.
Yeah.
One thing I did have some curiosity about as I was walking around the parking lot is the lot behind you is signed exclusively for church only activities. Yeah, and that's a big,
So, do you mean behind the,
behind the social security administration, you said your office was in there, so I said,
yes,
thank
we
you.
do have a parking lot, so we
Yes, I
have,
saw there's a small lot behind your building,
There
and there's
is
a
a lot.
much larger one behind it.
right,
I saw some questionable vehicular movements from people that were circulating the building looking for a parking spot. Some of them went into the lot behind your building and then ended up going back out on Warren and trying to go back and forth until they found a spot.
so, yes, so when we got the Social Security Administration as a tenant, there had to be a certain amount of parking, they have a lot of rules, they have a lot of studies, it's gotta be. Now, behind our building, before you get to the churches, there is a small lot, but if you go directly across the street, that's Warren Street Square, there's a pretty good sized lot back there.
Well, back behind that building.
Yeah, so you just have, and that's not hard, crossing that street, so you're on that's J Street. So Warren Street Square, there's a lot that's never full, and it's behind, and I think there might even be a sign that says for Social Security as well.
Okay, that's a bit of a distance, so I can see people maybe not
Yeah.
feeling too compelled to want to use that. I was just wondering if there's
But,
there's a demand
but in
mitigation on your
fairness,
side.
they seem to all park on the street, you know, Mint Restaurant, and I know I'm more concerned about the Conklin Center, the dance studio, and of course, the Social Security Administration, but what people will do at Mint Restaurant is there's a good sized lot back there.
Yeah.
They don't park there, they park on the street. I don't know why, but they just do.
Well, I think it's a good time of year as we consider sidewalk project and paving, and we can talk to our planner who just left about our community development block grant funding to see if there's any possible use there. I can talk to our city engineer about what's happening and we can get back to you, but
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Wanted to throw that out there.
No, thanks for sharing.
yeah.
Thank you.
I
Thank
took a
you
look
very
at
much.
this afternoon. And Mrs. Hoffman has brought a serious concern to our attention. So I'd hate to see us study this to death,
Yeah.
as municipalities often do.
Uh-huh.
And so I'd like to try to move this along if we could. But I did notice that the other two crosswalks, the east and west of this location, are faded.
Yeah.
And so maybe if they got spiffed up a little bit, it would have some impact on drivers.
Thank you, I agree.
Okay.
One thing I've tried to have a conversation with the city about in the past on isolated projects before being on this board was maybe considering moving to the higher profile crosswalk delineation, which is the ladder, which is the continuous vertical lines bounding the horizontal lines. It grabs your eye more as a motorist. There's drawbacks to it. It's more upkeep, and walking on the vertical components can be something of a slip hazard. But while we're talking about sprucing up crosswalks, that might be a consideration.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else on old business that is still intended to be brought up? I know you were just thinking about.
Yes, I was just going to do that brief,
Okay,
really brief update.
okay.
I know on old business, I think it's 445 something. Anyway, it's the Monument Avenue at Glen Street intersection. John Jenkins, who used to be on this board, swung by and gave me a bunch of paperwork and said, "We're wondering about this." And so I did some searching. If you'd like something more on this, it would probably be better to talk about it in June. Maybe I could get our city engineer in. But the short answer is it will start now with some planning on that, but it is a federal government grant, and so likely it will be installed next spring. And that's the short answer on this one.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else have any old business?
We had a couple of new things we didn't touch.
I think there was only one that I had missed, and Steve had said I should table it because that person who wanted to talk didn't come
Is that the
today.
Maple Avenue?
Maple Avenue, yeah, the 145 Maple can be.
Yeah,
until
yeah.
Okay.
I'll reach back out to him and see if he'd like to come and talk
Mhm.
about it. I don't want to screw up his argument for him.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
Was there anything else
Um,
that I missed?
10-minute parking?
Yeah. Want to discuss that?
Okay, that's not on my agenda.
Oh, it's,
Okay. But yes, actually, I do know what you're referring to, I believe so. This is in front of on Glen Street. or this-
Yeah.
Okay, so that we have these 10-minute parking spots, and the question is, do we need them? And I'm wondering, why do we have them there? What's the purpose of them? The business owners there don't think they need the 10-minute spots. At some point, there was a loading zone, right?
It was,
Yeah.
yeah, actually, I was talking to Emily and some other people who had been here, and saw this. Apparently it was a COVID related thing to make sure there was parking that was opening constantly since restaurants and other businesses couldn't stay open. They needed to make sure that the churn of parking was continuing. And so the 10 minutes was to ensure that there would be an open spot when somebody got downtown. That was part of the idea there.
So wasn't there an issue that it was considered a loading zone at one point?
For one of the retailers, they had sort of said, "Oh, this will be great. It would be the loading zone, though most of the loading zone now is out in the middle of the street." And
Yeah, I think the loading zone originally that's in code
Right,
was also prior to the roundabout.
that's what I'm
So
saying.
that's
Yeah.
so that never got updated,
Right.
and then when the roundabout came, it obviously just became regular parking. And then from there,
Mhm.
with COVID, and there was a couple business owners, I believe Olive Oil Company specifically was one of them that had requested actually shorter term spots for
Mhm.
people to be able to like grab takeout or come in or come out and not be parked,
Mhm.
as long. But yeah, the loading zone, I believe, was pre-roundabout,
Right,
so,
right. So,
yeah.
so in the code, it's listed as a loading zone, but we think that's kind of antiquated because that was before we had the roundabout there. And then during COVID, it got moved to a 10-minute loading because people were really not staying. They were just grabbing things and leaving. So the question is, do we think there's any reason why we should keep 10-minute parking spots there?
where exactly is this located?
Like in front of the barber shop.
It's the first three spots.
Yeah.
On Glen Street,
Uh-huh.
from the roundabout on the right hand side.
Uh-huh.
From a freight and delivery
Well, you-
perspective, you absolutely don't need them anymore.
No.
They go in the middle.
Park in the middle.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
and that, believe it or not, that's been touted as a best practice on how to accommodate freight deliveries in an urban area is that flat center median.
Okay.
I think it was more, the 10 minutes was more for takeout because of COVID, people were kind of coming, not necessarily like loading trucks, but more so people weren't dining in, really, they were doing more takeout, so I think that was part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Certainly seems appropriate to question the need.
so does anyone have any concerns with the common council considering removing the 10-minute parking?
No.
No.
Okay,
None.
Okay,
And the second half paragraph on that, Mayor, is the one about the 10 minutes out in front of this building. People
Ah.
come in, they wanna pay a parking ticket, or, yeah, parking ticket, they have to, they're doing a little bit of work. It's hard to get in, out, fill out a form, get back out there in 10 minutes. And so,
yeah.
should those be out, we've gotten a number of people who've come up and said, I got this ticket, and all I was doing was trying to,
Pay my.
Really?
pay my ticket, now, yeah, pay my taxes, and now I've gotten the ticket. And so we're wondering if that would be better served as a 20 or maybe 30-minute parking, two spaces out there, 20 or 30 minutes. To give people an opportunity to actually get their work done and not worry about getting a ticket.
Which 20 times?
Yeah,
If in fact we're having people at 10 minutes, yeah, we should probably change that.
I mean, I will say, I do know and I do see them, is that the tickets, the 10-minute spots, I believe are really only ticketed once they exceed 30 to 40 minutes.
Oh, really?
So, I mean, just as a note, and I've physically gone through and seen the tickets and when they're being timed and when they're actually leaving, and typically it's exceeding
Yeah.
that time frame. She's usually giving them a little window.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, yep.
but does anyone have any concerns if it moves to a 20-minute time? Okay,
Let's go to 30.
you'd like to
I
go to
like 30.
30? Okay,
okay.
and do
Instead
you,
of being too short, yeah, third's fine.
is that okay with everybody? Or do you,
60.
you would like it to be smaller? Okay, 20. Anyone
It's
else
to
have
come
a-
into City Hall, do your business.
and leave?
You might
And
need
the
the
next-
might have to get the key for the bathroom.
I need the bathroom.
Bath, that doesn't happen in the Timber Commission.
Not going.
Okay,
I
All
would
right.
say 20.
okay, so I hear 120 and everyone else is okay with 30. At the end of the day, the common council will decide
Right.
this. I just wanted to make sure you didn't have objections to this.
Not-
Right, okay
Okay.
for moving on from.
Yeah.
10.
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
We would need a resolution from them if you,
want a favorable
well, yeah, they have to approve it for parking. To
to,
move to common council.
yeah, but just to lift the 10 minutes. Do they have to decide on a 20 or 30 minutes?
The problem is the 10 minutes isn't in the vote, so it depends on what you wanna do with that.
Yeah.
That's the only difference, is if you would wanna change it in the code or not.
Uh-huh.
That's the big difference.
It's not in the code to begin with. Can we issue tickets on something that's not in the code? Legally, interesting.
It's a city parking.
Uh-huh,
City hall.
okay.
I got a ticket out here.
Okay.
At public safety meeting.
Wasn't this one of these went along?
I think, well, maybe better to get everything.
Would somebody like to make a motion either for 20 or 30 and then we'll vote on it?
I'd like to make a motion for 30.
Okay. Would anyone second?
I will second that.
Okay, and we'll do a roll call vote. Emily, will you do that?
Bear with me. Commissioner Clancy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bradley, Commissioner Seidel,
Yes.
Commissioner Frankenfeld,
Aye.
Commissioner Alden.
Yeah.
and Commissioner Ross.
Yes.
Okay. So we have a favorable opinion to the common council. Okay, I think that's all the items at this point. Hopefully our agendas are aligned. Okay, does anyone have any other old business or new business that you'd like to bring up that wasn't on the agenda? Okay, so then I would ask, for Police Chief Diamond to come up for his monthly report.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
I'm Kyle Diamond, current Assistant Chief of Police. While Jared is out using the rest of his time through the month of May.
Acting Chief.
Um,
Great.
Yeah, and then I'll be taking over as provisional chief in around June 1st. Just a quick update on the hiring status. We've had the 2 conditional offers that were still pending. And then the detectives are still conducting backgrounds to fill the other 2 vacancies we currently have.
Okay.
So that process is moving forward. A couple weeks ago, I sat a focus group in Albany at the State Sheriff's Association, where state chiefs and sheriffs got together to discuss the recruitment and retention issue that's happening statewide. and gave some input to that for DCJS. So. Also, in April, we had 10 members of the PD, which is the third of the department, attend a bicycle and e-bike training. So they got a lot of good input on that. Officer Warrington's really taken the lead on that, and we presented with Common Council last month as well. So getting our officers educated on all things e-bikes, because it's a new and growing thing, is definitely one of our main priorities. Also, just a few days ago, we issued 2 letters of commendation for 2 officers for fantastic police work. Both were 2 different isolated incidents. Both occurred on the same day. I don't know if you've read them, but exceptional police work. So I commend both of those officers. I think the city just posted it on their Facebook page, but there's a procession coming through the city on May 20th. For 44 patriots who lost their lives during Revolutionary War. And so they expect to be through Glens Falls during around 11:30, going right up Glen Street. So we've had a few different meetings with the organizers, the state police, members of the city, DPW. So we'll be assisting with that. Gonna shut down Glen Street for the better part of an hour or so that day. So and that's May 20th.
They're using both lanes.
Yes, they're using both lanes, very slow moving, very large vehicles. It's gonna be quite a sight to see. That's why hopefully people come out at 10.
Week from today, 1 week from today.
Yep, so,
Pretty excited.
oh yeah. Hope for good weather. Also, we just rolled out a new parking ticket vendor, provider, so the ticket writers that we use and the software that goes along with it. The city clerk's office uses. Lieutenant Bell knows a lot about that particular system, but we're moving away from the one that we've had for the last few years. In addition to that, I met with Officer Norton, who's our school resource officer, last month regarding the situation over by the school, and I understand they did a traffic study, and they've done some work that's been completed over on Grant Ave. The feedback he's hearing is very positive as to what the changes were over there. To my understanding, they haven't implemented what was recommended on the traffic study for Quaid Street itself. But I did go over and kind of see for myself where the area of concern was. And forgive me, I don't want to go against anything that the traffic study says. I'm not sure if they're planning on moving forward with the recommendation that was on there. But what we did notice, and I'll point it out, was I printed off like the map from the traffic study, and the area where it kind of bends, where Quaid Street kind of bends and goes over towards Grant Avenue, the road actually shrinks by 10 feet. And what happens is there's parking a lot on both sides. So cars are parked on the east side and the west side, and then you have 2 lanes of traffic, and it completely bottlenecks right in that area. So we were discussing the possibility of, and again, I'm not a traffic engineer, but just from our perspective, the possibility of having like a no stopping zone on the east side of Quaid Street. Kind of like in the area of like where 39 Quaid is going northbound on the east side of the road. And I didn't know if you can do like no stopping for periods of time or on school days, if that's like a legally established time frame or something to that effect. So I'll just bring it up for future consideration. Again, if the traffic study aspect for Quaid Street is moving forward, then my comments are null and void. But that's just my perspective as a second option.
I think it's really interesting second option that wasn't considered during the initial study. So the fact that
there may be
no,
like
it's
engineering reasons why it wasn't, but
I don't necessarily know that there's not.
Yeah.
I'm trying to lend some support to this concept because I spoke with Officer Norton and with school personnel on site as we were observing Grant Street. which is working
Yes.
really well.
Mhm.
And the thought was, let's take that similar approach and transpose it over to Quay.
Mhm.
So instead of maybe going both feet into that one-way treatment,
Yeah.
you're looking to solve a different problem, admittedly, but the fact that the grant treatment has been so successful, or seemingly so, apparently, but lends some credence to considering that for Quaid. Just for reference, two different engineers worked on that.
Okay.
The original concept for Quaid was developed by one firm, and this Grant Street concept was developed kind of a, hey, we didn't really look at Grant when we were looking at Quaid. What about Grant? So
Yeah.
to my knowledge, there's no immediate plans to push any implementation on Quaid, but I might not be the person to speak with about that. But having overseen the formulation of the study, I know that one of the concepts with Quaid was, let's see if some of these other neighboring treatments work before we go with the full option of a one-way consideration. And in the meantime, this other concept has emerged and
Mhm.
seems to be a reasonable idea with a similar set of circumstances. Narrow road that can't necessarily support a lane of parked cars in either direction and passing traffic.
Yeah, and that particular day I was there, Officer Norton actually had to go out in the middle of the street in between four different cars, two parked and two in the lane, and kind of work it through. Um, and so, if he can't be there for other reasons, tending to something else at the school, you're just trying to avoid an issue before it happens. So. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Make a motion to accept.
Yes, so we have a motion to accept the provisional chiefs, almost provisional chiefs.
Did you notice I stopped?
Yes, I know. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, but it is accepted. Now we have Fire Chief Baskew's monthly report. If you'd like to come up.
Hello, Craig Askew, Captain, Acting Chief, like Assistant Chief, Provisional Chief, as of May 31st.
Well,
Thank you again for the opportunity. I sent our monthly breakdown. Not sure if there's any questions on that. Probably the biggest significant thing that stands out in that is we've had 3 job injuries that are not normal to us. To answer any, obviously the one is very familiar to everybody. She's improving day to day. Still has a long road ahead of her. The other 2 are fairly minor injuries. One's a back injury from our physical agility tests that we had. And the other one's a broken finger from the previous fire that we just had. So that's the most significant fire we had over the last month, probably. That was handled very well and very quickly by the crews that were on duty. Looked a lot worse than it was due to the materials that were burning, but they did a great job in keeping it to, from what I understand, the trailer and forklift that were involved in. I got a very optimistic plan to hopefully have 5 hires by the end of the month, if I can get my job done. And present them to you guys. We got 1 we're presenting tonight for you guys to interview and go over. And potentially 2 promotions, at least 2 promotions. To fill my position, and then whoever would down the road fill that lieutenant's position after that. So that's what I would like to get accomplished by the end of the month. I know it's optimistic, and like I said, I gotta get my stuff done to get to you guys so you can do your thing. And obviously, there's gonna be stuff after that as far as psych tests and physical stuff like that. But at least if we can get the hiring process completed to try and ease some of the overtime burnout that's very evident in our department right now. So
Thank you. I think we can work together. I mean, I thank the police department for being very quick with the background
Correct,
checks and
yes.
prioritizing that, and you're doing a great job moving people forward, and we keep asking you all to come back in for interviews, but that's a good thing to have to come in for, so I think we can do it.
Preferably, hopefully to keep it easiest on you guys, if the next we got one tonight.
Mhm.
If we can do a next batch for 4 positions, do all the interviews in one night, I think it would make it a lot easier on you guys for sure.
All right, thank you.
That's what I'm shooting for.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Thanks, Chief.
You're welcome.
I move acceptance.
Okay,
Second that.
Before we, no, please, no, you're fine, just before. May I ask for letters of recommendation? That's not the right word, letters of commendation, correct? For all the, officers that were involved with the incident involving firefighter Mickey Guy, that they acted quickly, which they always do, I know, and efficiently in any situation. But in working on one of their very own, which had to have been an unbelievable experience for them, I just think I give them all the credit in the world.
You're talking officers, you want firefighters,
The,
fire department?
I want people that were involved
Gotcha.
in that incident,
My life sounds saving.
absolutely.
I think that's gonna be done, I think between myself and the police department, we come up with a list, because there's actually a couple firefighters that probably and police officers that are very definitely responsible for her.
Letters of commendation.
Making life that is the truth, so.
It is, and
if you want to prepare that for the next meeting, we can do that.
I would sincerely appreciate that
Yeah,
because
no, it's excellent.
I cannot imagine what they all went through.
There's no doubt in my mind if the officers that were there, would they, police officers, and the firefighters that initially took airway management, she wouldn't be with us. They're both out, so.
It speaks volumes of the people that we have. And I truly appreciate every single one of you. Thank you.
When I,
Said Tim.
Thanks, Sandy.
yes, I was gonna say, when I was at the hospital that night, then I think it was a PA or nurse practitioner from Albany Med basically echoed that sentiment, that our crews from Glens Falls did such a good job, and that's the main reason why she was in the condition she was in as opposed to something else, so. Okay, so we'll move that for the next meeting. And I had a first and a second earlier, but all in favor of accepting the chief's report. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. The last thing we're going to do is go into executive session to discuss the hiring of a new fire department member. Can I have a motion for that? Second, all in favor? Aye. We're in executive session.
Okay.
Hey, just-